Good evening, Jimmy here from the reloading room again tonight, and I'm going to be bringing you the final video in the three-part series on reloading the Berger VLD bullet. Just to recap, I am reloading for my Sako 75 chambered in 30-06. I am reloading the Berger 185 grain 30 caliber hunting bullet, and in the first few videos we covered the cases that I'm reloading. I fire formed those. I've checked those for overall length on the case. They are all under the maximum tolerance. They only varied a few thousandths from case to case, which was something kind of new to me with a little bit more quality brass. Usually with the cheaper brass, I have to do a little bit of case trimming to get things consistent. And I'm pretty picky about that in my reloading. I like to have cases that are consistent in length. And I didn't have to touch these, so I would say just in that alone, they're worth the extra money. You can justify the extra cost by the time that you save not having to mess around with trimming all of these up like that. Eventually, they'll probably stretch enough where I may have to trim them. My chamber doesn't really stretch cases a whole lot when I fire form like that, but yours may, so it's something that you'll want to check. Onto powder, and I only like to keep the powder that I'm reloading on my bench. I don't want to be, when I'm filling my trickler up, grabbing the wrong pound of powder, and you could have some major issues. So I think that's just a good best practice to just have only the powder you're reloading with. Keep everything else in a metal powder cabinet and only grab the one that you are using. I'm reloading with IMR 4350. I know that the 4350 runs very good with a range of bullets in my specific rifle. It is kind of in the middle of the road on the burn chart for the available powders in the Berger load data, and so that's why I'm going with the IMR 4350. It just happens to be a really popular powder for the 30-06 as well. Onto our measurements. I like to, once I've got all my calculations, I know what I'm reloading to, what I'm measuring out for powder, and I have my seating depths, I like to just record those on a little notebook that I'll keep next to the reloading press here. It's a lot easier for me to reference this than going back to a load data table in the book, and those are kind of in a big grid, so you're looking at a lot of numbers. This just keeps things very simple. Always double check those measurements. I actually had an error in my measurements that I found, so double checking those, triple checking them is just a good practice, especially with this VLD bullet. I think you're doing a lot of extra measurements with the progression that Berger wants you to do to find the best load with measuring things to that jump to the lands. So it's just a good practice to double check your math there. Again, I have my caliper all set with the Hornady comparator tool. We're going to be measuring everything to the ogive. That's where I have my seating depths listed for. And I kept my magazine out. I've already, as you can see here, I've already loaded some. The first set of 6 that I loaded was my specific measurement that we took that for the jump to my lands. I verified that they all load into my magazine. It appears that they're going to work just great, and that's my starting point, so we verified that. From there, we're going to follow the Berger progression. So the first measurement, or the first seating depth, was custom to my specific rifle. I think I said I'm 30 thousandths off the lands. I was kind of just rounding up in the video, kind of calculating that on the fly. I'm actually 24 5/10 thousandths off the lands, to be a little bit more specific. But again, that's my chamber and how things just measured out. The next jump, then I'm going to go to Berger's specifications, because now I have room seating in further in the magazine. So I'm going to go to 50 thousandths, then 90 thousandths, then 130 thousandths. I've already reloaded at the 50 thousandths, and I'm halfway through at the 90 thousandths level. I've adjusted my competition die with the micrometer. This is a really nice feature, again, talking about spending a little bit extra on equipment that saves time. This has been really precise, having to adjust that seating depth on the micrometer. It's just spot on, and I really appreciate that, not having to with a Lee die or even the standard Redding dies, you are kind of guessing. So you take your time seating that in, then you got to pull your bullet out, measure it. It's usually not quite there. So you move in tiny progressions, and it takes a while to readjust that. So when you're doing this progressive seating depth and loading these, this saves a lot of time to just dial it in the micrometer. Anyway, not doing a full review on that die, but highly recommend it. So with that, we'll get into the process here, and we'll just zero out the scale. And now I've been talking, I can't even remember if I calibrated it. So we'll just calibrate it again. Doesn't take long. And we're good. I think Frankfurt and someone else probably manufactures these for them, of course, but they recommend that you have this on for a little while to kind of warm it up. And you definitely don't want like a duct above this or your work area, because even a little bit of air blowing on your scale can throw things off. So I'm just going to trickle in. I like to go quick at first, and then once I'm approaching my load, I'll kind of slow down. And I overshot it, going a little too fast. You could use a digital trickler as well. Once I'm kind of doing this, not in a video, I can go pretty quick, but it's definitely not a race either. You just want to be precise and make sure everything's verified. One thing with these digital scales, if the batteries get low, you'll know it because they'll start swinging. So I keep a lot of fresh batteries. These things do, I would say that's the one downside with them, is they eat some batteries up. Now I'm talking and I overshot this again. Alright, so now we're on the money. So we'll charge the case. Grab a bullet. This die is fitted to the 30-06 case, so it guides it up. It's really nice the way it works. We're seated. Again, that's seated on the ogive. And I wanted to make sure I mentioned this. I think I talked about it in the first video. I did not use the seating stem for the VLD bullets that they make for that die. And in talking with Redding, they said really it was kind of all about that ring that it left on the bullets that VLD seating stem was produced for. I maybe can see a faint ring on there, but man, it's not going to be enough that I'm going to go out and buy that seating stem. So that's kind of good news that that wasn't an issue. So we will measure this, and we're right on the money. Right there. So that's it. The last step, I like to keep my batches identified here just so things don't get mixed up. So I'll just take a fine Sharpie and make a unique number or mark on this that I know that I have for reference that I can go back to. That'll kind of keep those batches. I'll put these in a reloader's box after and keep them organized, but that'll just allow me to reference something when I'm chronographing these and getting results. So that's it. As soon as I finish this batch up, then we'll go to the range. It's been sub-zero temperatures, super cold with high wind chills lately, but we have some 30-degree temperatures in the forecast for this weekend, which is great because I like to test bullets like this in hunting conditions. Low 30s is a real typical temperature for me for rifle season. So I'm pretty happy with that. So as long as we don't have any real strong winds, we'll be able to go out to the 100-yard range and see how these perform. I'm real curious to see how that jump to the lands affects things in my gun And hopefully one of these is shooting really well, one of these in the progression, and then we can go from there, where I'll take that and then probably play with the powder charge either up or down to see if we can improve that. At that point, I'll do some long range shooting and I'll bring you that in a new video. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the shooting videos in the future. Thanks.